The countdown until Christmas has begun. Are you ready yet? Let us know. 8168 is the number to text. Start your message with the first word, Rhema. Although, for some people, we've got a list of things we need to get done until Christmas, although I think it pales into insignificance compared to the to-do list that Jonathan Ayling from the Free Speech Union has. Jonathan, kia ora, good morning. Busy old time for you guys.
Unfortunately, the fight for free speech, their trade is booming, and we're not going out of business anytime soon, as much as we'd love to. It seems the would-be censors keep on knocking, so we'll keep back on knocking them down.
Peace on earth, goodwill toward men, and free speech as well while we're at it. Now, you've got an international guest going to be in New Zealand later in the week. I'm looking forward to talking to them. Another international guest who is knocking on the door vigorously and wanting to come to New Zealand, Candace Owens. Now, she is a controversial figure. The Aussies said, no way, we're kicking her out, although, to be fair, they have some tougher immigration settings than we do here in New Zealand. But Immigration New Zealand saying, oh, well, if the Aussies are a bit nervous, then automatically we have to ban her. That's a bizarre interpretation of the law.
It really is. Section 15 of our Immigration Act says that if an individual is, and this is a technical term, we'll come back to it, is excluded from another nation, we automatically have to do that ourselves.
Yep.
And so Immigration New Zealand are saying, well, there's nothing we can do about this. We are just following the law. Now, Free Speech Union, you wouldn't want us ignoring the law, would you? We're just following the law, and we're shutting this nasty piece of work out. And there's a couple of things that are wrong with that. First of all, the law itself is just absurd. I mean, because Iran is not very quickly going to have Salman Rushdie come back into its borders, are we also going to shut Salman Rushdie out because the Iranians don't like him? I think that's a nonsense way of kind of outsourcing our immigration policy to other countries, many of which do not share our values whatsoever. The second thing is that term excluded is a technical legal term. It means things like an individual was caught committing a crime that has an imprisonment of more than 5 years, or they've been deported from other countries like that. We don't want to allow people in who are just going to be causing problems that are against the law or are never going to leave or that kind of thing. Certainly that's not the case here at all. So that's why last week when Immigration New Zealand said that they had denied Candace Owens' visa and said that they had no choice, we said you absolutely do. And unless you do something about this, we'll sue you over this because you're ignoring actually your responsibility to respect free speech.
A couple of things on that, though. We're a bit closer economically and culturally to Australia than we are to Iran, to be fair. And also... in terms of immigration, I think the only criminals that we import into New Zealand are the 501s from Australia. So there's a little bit of irony there. Now, she hasn't committed a crime, but she is a contentious individual and has certainly created a little bit of stir when she's gone to other countries. This, of course, is the what was touted as the reason why people like Posey Parker should be excluded. Is that in itself a reason? I mean, that's not the reason Immigration New Zealand are using, but is that in itself a reason? She might cause a stir? She might upset the Christmas shoppers?
Well, look, there's two parts of a response there. Firstly, I would say controversial in whose mind? Some people might find it controversial. Other people might find it entirely uncontroversial, what she had to say. Some people might find her perspectives provocative. Others might find them the most sensible things that they've ever heard. So who gets to choose which, quote, provocative or controversial figures are excluded? That's one thing. So we need to have a much more objective standard. If someone is going to come into our country and incite violence and say one particular group should be violently opposed by another particular group, absolutely. That's the sort of controversy, if we want to use that term, we should not indulge in a liberal society. But that's because free speech does not protect the right to incite violence against others. The second point is, what does that achieve? I would say right now, in many ways, Candace Owens is loving this. And we're saying she was controversial, she was provocative. Well, now many more people than ever otherwise would have heard about her. Look, I was aware of Candace Owens beforehand. I had seen some clips. I hadn't thought much of them. And this may just differ from the views some of your listeners have. Fine, you're allowed to think for yourselves and have your own opinion. In my opinion, Candace Owens isn't as sharp as a lot of people cut her out to be, or as eloquent as a lot of people cut her out to be. That's my perspective. But here we are nonetheless talking about her because that's what censorship does. It shuts people out. And a mature society, you may think Candace Owens is bright, you may think she's dull. It doesn't really matter. A mature society, a sophisticated society, even if they are dull or even dangerous opinions, is able to rise to the level of holding these perspectives to account and challenging them on grounds of reason and persuasion, not on the grounds of, well, we don't like what your opinions are, so you don't even get the chance to make the case.
Now, it may be very good news indeed for Candace Owens that she does get banned. Look, I'm being repressed, she says, and all of her followers go yes and amen to that. However, there's the economic question. Now that she's been banned from Australia, it may not actually be financially worth her while to come to one Antipodean country, so she may need to pull the plug financially, but it's much better from a PR point of view if she's being banned and ostracised than, well, we just can't afford it anymore, right?
It's hard to see how Candace Owens doesn't win out of this. She either gets locked out and she's the one speaking truth to power so much that those repressive regimes down in the South Pacific can't stand the criticism, or, as I think is more likely, both in Australia and in New Zealand, legal action will see her able to enter.
Yep.
And then mark my words, when she does, and I think she will hold events here in New Zealand eventually, more people will attend those events as a result. So she's going to win one way or the other. I think at the moment, if she could have come to New Zealand but not Australia, the economics of that would have been questionable. Mm-hmm. But our partners over in Australia are very much working on this case as well. The visa rejection over there is under legal action, and I think it's very likely to be overturned. The reason being, and I think we can only make this as clear as possible, the reason being, politicians getting to pick and choose who comes into our country based on whether they like their opinions is a very, very bad idea. And it may not be an uncommon way of practice in other countries, but in countries like New Zealand and Australia, thankfully, our laws do stop politicians largely from being able to do this, because it is a short path to a very bad place where we're not able to hear the breadth of opinions and where political actors are able to pick and choose who gets to speak. And this has never ended well.
Is it politicians or is it immigration bureaucrats and officials that are pulling the levers on this one? I understand Free Speech Union New Zealand, you've written to MP Chris Pink asking him to overrule in this case, but who's holding the levers?
Yeah, so in Australia, it was the Minister of Immigration's decision. He pretty much unilaterally decided because she has nasty opinions, in his opinion, she should be locked out. That has set on this flow-on effect where now Immigration New Zealand is saying that rises to the level of exclusion. We disagree. But here it is immigration bureaucrats that have done this.
Yep.
We entirely anticipated, though, that Immigration New Zealand would look for a scapegoat, would look for a reason to blame to be able to say, oh, well, we're not allowed to let her in. This isn't a decision. We can only make that as clear as possible that a political leader has made here in New Zealand.
Yep.
And Erica Stanford is the immigration minister. Chris Pink is the associate minister for immigration, and part of the delegation for associate ministers of immigration is they deal with appeal cases. Mm-hmm. So that's why the action that we've taken has landed on his desk. Chris Pink has a very clear head on his shoulders, and he's a very principled defender of free speech. And I'm confident that once these arguments are made, he won't see buying into the Australians' censorship as anything New Zealand is required to do.
Yeah, basically it's a case of, can I see your manager, please? And we'll see how this goes from here. Whatever happens, it's not going to be on the original schedule, likely to be in the new year. But hey, thanks very much for the work that you do at the Free Speech Union. Of course, fsu.nz for more information. Jonathan, thanks once again for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Andrew.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.